Now, the Israeli military is asking people in southern Lebanon to immediately evacuate their homes and other areas where the militant group Hezbollah could be storing weapons. Israel's now launching widespread airstrikes against the Iran-backed group in Lebanon. The latest attacks come amid some of the heaviest cross-border fighting in the conflict that is raging alongside the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. Hezbollah has vowed to continue its strikes in solidarity with the Palestinians and Hamas, the Palestinian militant group, also backed by Iran.
We don't need to make threats. And we won't specify how we will respond to aggression. We've entered a new phase titled Open-Ended Battle of Reckoning, where we monitor the support and confrontation front, while every now and then we kill them and fight them from where they expect and beyond.
We're going to talk more about this now with our international affairs commentator, Doug Herbert, who joins me on the set. Doug, we've just heard there Hezbollah's deputy leader talking about this open-ended battle of reckoning with Israel. Does this essentially mean that this escalation that everyone in the region and the world has feared is now here?
Yeah, well, there's definitely a sense, to directly answer your question, that the region is being pulled towards a vortex of what could be described as a full-blown war. We hear more and more the rhetoric, the language surrounding the events being much sharper and more belligerent in a sense. Yes, the same narrative still applies, that the region is close to perhaps or more edging closer to an all-out war after the recent week of escalation. And it's true that we've seen more sustained and intense cross-border exchanges. That's actually putting it mildly. I mean, missile attacks, aerial attacks from the Israeli side, drones and missiles coming in and rockets coming in from the Lebanese side into Israel. This is definitely the sharpest exchanges that we have seen. So technically, I mean, you might say it's semantic nitpicking. What does it take to describe a full-blown war? Especially when you have on the one side, you have Hezbollah basically explicitly saying, Israel's threats and Israel's rocket fire, its missile fire, even into Beirut, and these targeted strikes across dozens of areas across southern Lebanon, it is not going to deter us. We are going to continue our rocket attacks. They have said that explicitly. Now, you could have any number of analysts saying yes, but in reality, they're going to stay their hand because they know at the end of the day, Israel is the paramount military power in the region. They don't want to have another 2006, which was the devastating 34-day war between Israel and Hezbollah, which left thousands dead in Lebanon and also devastation across large swaths of the southern part of the country. They don't want a repeat of that, but they have been digging in their heels. This weekend, as the deputy leader of Hezbollah described it, they said that the strikes against, as they described it, Israeli military production facilities, the strikes even near targeting an air base near Haifa, Israel's third largest city in the north, all of that, as he sees it, is part of what he called a new phase, a new and intense phase of this, as you said, reckoning with Israel. It's definitely in a new phase. Whether or not you want to call it full-blown war, all-out war, you could have that as an armchair debate at home. It certainly looks more and more like a full-blown war. And the UN, I'll just note, has been issuing a warning that the region is on the brink of an imminent catastrophe. I know we've heard that before, but the tone of these statements is getting more alarmed.
What about Israel in all of this? What are its military goals in Lebanon?
Yeah, well, its goals are very explicit. Its overriding goal, as we know, because it has now been made an official war objective, an objective approved by Israel's political and security cabinet last week, is to be able to return the estimated nearly 60,000 citizens, Israeli citizens, who've been uprooted, displaced from their homes in the north of the country, homes that were vulnerable or in the line of the potential line of fire of rockets from Hezbollah, have been moved. They want to be able to safely return them. That's the overriding objective. How do you do that? They want to, the Israeli military says it wants to degrade Hezbollah's ability to fire rockets. That is, stop them from being able to fire rockets. What does that mean? The second objective, push those Hezbollah forces back from the very southern parts of Lebanon from which those rockets are being fired across to the other side of what's called a UN-drawn blue line separating the two sides and their hostilities, push them back further out of reach of those residents of the north, presumably. And finally, to be able to eliminate or to destroy Hezbollah's ability to continue waging this fight. Essentially very similar to the goals that we heard Israel pronouncing at the outset of the conflict in Gaza, right, with Hamas, basically saying eliminate their ability to cast themselves as a viable military or political entity, their ability to both govern that region, have influence over the region, to be militarily viable in the region. Those are the objectives. But like I said, Hezbollah is being very clear. If Israel thinks it's going to achieve those war aims through a military solution, they are sorely mistaken. It is only going to ratchet up tensions, and it is going to put Hezbollah on more and more of a determined war footing, if you will.